I'm Bishop Russo. I am the resident bishop of the Dakotas and Minnesota area, and also privileged to serve as president of the Council of Bishops. The Executive Committee of the Council of Bishops is meeting this week in Chicago, and one of the topics that has been very much on our minds is our issues of race and racial violence. And I have with me today several colleagues who are resident bishops of annual conferences where there have been recent shootings. And we would just like to share some of our thoughts and impressions with the church. It's
very disturbing when we hear about these shootings throughout the country. We always are concerned about the response to those. We have experienced police shootings of young African Americans. We've had all kinds of shootings. We have up to 60 shootings a weekend, especially during the summer. And just last night, a 6-year-old girl was shot. She's one of more than a handful of children who've been shot just this summer. We're 6 weeks into the summer. And it can just break your heart. It's overwhelming. It's exhausting. But, you know, right now, as we shoot this video, more than a dozen United Methodist churches, South and West Side, are opening their doors to welcome in the children of the community. And they have them throughout the day. It's a partnership with the Chicago Public Schools. And I repeatedly try to tell them that you are literally saving children's lives. And we also work for advocacy. Our annual conference has supported a measure to the city council to have an independent review of shootings. I live in the city. My own alderman is the one who submitted this. And so we also work for advocacy, but trying in so many ways to help churches grow in their capacity to reach out to the community and to be present for these prayer vigils. Our own United Methodists have been shot and killed. And so it's an ongoing experience that we have. It feels like this is the ground of where we are in our society, and then these other episodes keep springing up. We must pray for peace, we must act for peace, and as we say in Chicago, we need to put legs to our prayers.
I'm certainly one who would always say that there's always a need for prayer, and I think we need to continue to do that and encourage our members, but I also think we need to begin taking some action or breaking down walls. A lot of the unrest in a number of our communities is that we simply refuse to get to know each other. And so we have been encouraging our churches to get outside of their walls because many of our churches, especially in the inner cities, are surrounded by persons who do not come in our doors. And there are reasons for that. And so we have been trying to be bridge builders. And I would hope all of our communities would take on that attitude.
This has got to stop. But the churches in Baton Rouge have really rallied around this. First we had the shooting of Alton Sterling, and then the shooting and the ambush of the police officers. And somehow those two events, as horrible as they have been, as horrible as the experience has been, perhaps could be our defining moment in making a change for how we live together. Our pastors are gathered. They gathered right after Alton Sterling's, the shooting of Alton Sterling. They gathered again yesterday to continue a conversation. Really no agenda, just talking about how they feel and how they can put, in fact, some action to their prayers. We gathered less than 24 hours after the Alton Sterling shooting in the town square in Baton Rouge, amazingly within less than 24 hours. And one of the things that one of the local newspapers who interviewed me said, you know, this rally was really different. I've been to all the other ones and all the other prayer vigils, but this one was really different. You all really prayed and you read scripture. And I think that's our call as a church. Sometimes we don't know what to do. We go to prayer. But I think we're now at that point where praying may be what we need to do, but we need to add some action to those prayers. And I'm confident that the people in Baton Rouge will use this as a moment to rewrite our narrative, that this is not a place of violence, that this is not, we don't want another Ferguson. We don't want that. We want to be Baton Rouge, and we want to be proud of the people that we say are United Methodists in the city.
We recognize that those images that happen all around us, they stay with us. They stay with us. And so when we see another event happening someplace else, that image just gets emblazoned on our minds again. And then that's when we as a faith community have to understand that we have to not just be a witness for our faith, but we have to be a witness for the injustices that we see all around us. They are there. We just are blind to them from time to time until something of this nature happens. Someone is killed, someone loses a life, some family loses a loved one, and then it goes into how we treat our public safety people who are called to help us, and yet we know that in some instances there have been times where they have been the perpetrators of the events that have happened. So we've got to learn how to be witnesses for the injustice that we see. That's a part of our faith. Not just a witness to what God does through us, through Jesus Christ, for us and into the world, but we have to be the witness for those who are caught in the cycle of poverty and where education is lacking in so many of our communities.
I serve in Florida, and our annual conference in June was held in Orlando for the first time. The dates coincided that week with the massacre at the Pulse Club. The Pulse Club is less than a mile from First United Methodist Church. A number of our Orlando churches have strong relationships, ministry, community with the LGBT community. They were targeted in those killings, and because we had strong relationships and credibility in that community through these local churches, we in a kind of a natural, organic way, were able to be kind of a safe place. I think it is a shock. It was really stunning, and our conference was trying to process it. We were trying to support pastors and lay leaders who almost had traumatic stress in the midst of this. We developed a statement of response to the killings and in support of that community. And we also had a prayer vigil in the midst of our annual conference. Interestingly, we had a prayer vigil a month later at our Southeastern Jurisdictional College about the murders in many of these other parts of the United States, and that led me in a kind of a troubled way to reflect on our continuing need to have prayer vigils, nothing about prayer or having a vigil, but the occasion of this systemic kind of epidemic violence that's across our land. And I'm grateful to the churches who are very involved with this. We had members of our churches in the Pulse Club that weekend. We had first responders who were members of the United Methodist Church who went in there. We had pastors who led interfaith services and churches that had blood mobiles. But in an ongoing way, I'm also grateful to the clergy who are connecting this kind of toxic brew of access to these assault weapons and mental illness and violence, and there is a need for an ongoing response that gets underneath the events that continue to happen.
It has reminded us once again about perhaps racial tensions, not perhaps, but racial tensions that do exist in the city of Dallas. But I think it's come with a renewed effort about in the faith community as well as other communities inside of in the city of Dallas to work on the tensions that do exist and how we move forward. Again, I want to say our churches were just responded so very well. to the community and with other faith partners in the community. And it's, I think one of the good things that's come out of the city, what's happened in the city of Dallas, is that we realize that our community is stronger than we thought, but we also realize that we have so much more work to do in terms of issues not only about race, but our public schools and issues about the disparity in income levels in the city of Dallas, which are very significant. And that does bring about levels of frustration and that move into anger that then could produce some violence, and we certainly don't want that to happen.
In the Minnesota conference, I had United Methodists that were part of the Black Lives Matters movement and part of the marches. And at the same time, we're taking hospitality baskets to police and police stations to send a message that we understand that we're all caught in a cycle of violence that we want to see end. And so we would just express a word of gratitude to our people. And then we are all committed to moving beyond where we have been and beginning to work diligently at the systemic issues that have contributed to this cycle of violence that seems to be spinning totally out of control within our country.
We have to say to people that we deplore racism, and we have to say to people that we are in firm opposition to gun violence. There's no other way to do it. So when I think about other areas and when I see events similar to what happened in Charleston happen in those areas, I once again know that I have to be a witness on behalf of persons who know that they need someone to speak up for them. I have to advocate. I have to have a prayerful response, but I also know that I have to say racism is not right, poverty is not right, and I need to be in opposition to gun violence in every way.
Writing statements about the violence that has happened and calling people to pray is a good thing, but it seems like we've got to move beyond that, because I can't spend the next 4 years just writing statements and responding by calling people to prayer. So what's the piece of advocacy that we really need to engage in, both locally and nationally, in terms of addressing the cycle of violence that continues to happen, not only in our individual cities, but around our country?
One of the things that we've talked about here while we've gathered as the executive committee is kind of where we see hope in this, in the life of the church. Like my colleague Bishop McKee, I'm tired of writing. I'm tired. I feel like a clanging cymbal, and God, here I am again. But I'm also very aware that God hears those clanging cymbals. So for that, I'm grateful.